Living my African life. Hello, hello. I am back. This is Nzali with Nzali Takes Africa. If you are a Black woman and you want to live, work, or play on the African continent, then this is the channel for you. I help Black women create the life that they want and that they deserve while living on the African continent. So, I have a special part 2, Ugly Truths About Ghana. So in my first video, I spoke a lot about what I feel, my opinion, allegedly, what I feel the Ghanaian government should do when it comes to marketing its country to the diaspora. In this particular video, we're going to talk about what can the diaspora do to manage their expectations? Because the truth is, a lot of us have passports now. A lot of us have gotten the traveling bug, and Ghana seems like the destination to be in West Africa. So, how can the diaspora manage their expectations? And you know, I always take notes. I always jot down my thoughts. So if you see me looking down, it's on my handy dandy sticky note. Some parts of teaching never leave me. Like, I was the teacher who loved sticky notes. I had sticky notes all over my desk, on like a little wall by my desk. And now that I'm on YouTube, same thing. So, how can we manage our expectations? I think the first thing that we have to address is this concept of like rose-colored glasses. So yes, we know that the current president of Ghana did make a trip to Washington, D.C. He did have meetings with the Congressional Black Caucus. He has done plenty upon plenty press tours speaking about the diaspora coming home, the Ghanaian diaspora, the African diaspora at large, returning to Ghana and settling and doing business. Yes. And a lot of the base or the premise of that request is that we are all connected. You know, as the founding, one of the founding freedom fighters for Ghana's liberation, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, you know, he said that it doesn't matter where you're born, right? If you're African, you're African. And so a lot of the remnants of those old Pan-African virtues and values are the underlying energy of a lot of the press that has gone out calling the diaspora back. Now, what we have to recognize is the people who understand the concept of the transatlantic slave trade and what part Ghana played in that, and how many people, bodies were transported through the dungeons that lined the coast of Ghana. I think it was upwards of about 75% of the slave dungeons that were holding people before they were shipped off were on the shores of Ghana. So the people who understand that, who have that historical background knowledge, is not the everyday person in Ghana in 2023, right? So as a person from the African diaspora, I'll speak specifically for those of us coming from the Americas. A lot of us assume that the people here know our story. We assume that because the slave dungeons are on their coastline, it's very visible. It's things that school children go and take trips there. Like, we assume that they know our story. We assume that they know our plight. We assume that they understand our fight for liberation of African people in the Americas and beyond. We assume that because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah studied in the U.S. and that when they first had their liberation movement, that a lot of those Africans in the Americas came into Ghana per Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's request, that this is like general knowledge. Well, ding, 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 ding. It's not. That is not widely spread information, right? And the similar to how in the U.S., a lot of our historical books and context and things that are taught to us are whitewashed, are watered down. It's the same thing in, you know, colonial Ghana, right? Which was Gold Coast, which was something else before that. So the same like whitewashing of history, omission of certain parts, a lot of that happened here as well. So when you're looking at the average everyday person, they're looking at America as like land of gold. So then when you come and you're talking about the injustices, the discrimination, racism, all the isms, right? They're kind of like, okay, they hear you, but they don't hear you. So those of us coming from the diaspora, we have to manage our expectation around how much we assume that people know about our history, because a lot of the people don't understand why you want to come to Ghana. They're like, you're coming from America, you're coming from, the islands, you're coming from Europe. Why do you want to come and live in Ghana? And they really genuinely don't understand why that is something that you would want to do. Okay? And so with that, it leads into this whole concept of a lot of people come with this like nostalgia type of feeling, like everybody's my brother, everybody's my sister, we're all Africans, we're this and we're that. No, all skin folk are not kinfolk. Everybody here is not your brother or your sister. So when you come and you're trying to set up business, or you're trying to find employment, or you're trying to purchase a home or rent a home or an apartment, or just a lot of these daily interactions that happen when you move to a different country, you're expecting a certain like baseline of understanding and a baseline of camaraderie and all of this kind of stuff, and it's just not there. It's not going to be there. All of those things have to be built over time. And then the real truth of the matter is that you may not find that in Ghana. Ghana may not be that country for you. You may have a love for coming to Africa, but Ghana is one country of about 54 different countries on the continent. And so just the assumption that you are coming back home, you are returning to like your ancestral place, and that people are going to accept that and welcome that, isn't necessarily true for everybody. Right? Now, of course, the people that are all working in the tourism industry, that's part of their sales tactics. So yes, they will understand and cater to that. Of course, there are people who are working within government who understand that, because they are part of the agenda of the Beyond the Return experience and all of that. And then there are some Ghanaians who've lived outside, who've come back home, who understand that and partially agree with it. And then, there's some other people that maybe don't fall into one of those categories that understand that. But when we're speaking about the everyday person that you're interfacing with, that may not be their reality. Okay, they're thinking, I want to go where you are. Why are you trying to come where I am? And you're not my brother or my sister. You're not. Some people here don't even view you as African. And that's another expectation that we have to manage from the diaspora. There are a lot of people here who don't see you as African, right? Like they will say that you're not African. You are from America. You're American, or you're European, or you're Australian, wherever you're coming from. But they don't necessarily see you as the same. So the treatment isn't going to be the same. Okay, so once we manage our expectations around this whole nostalgia thing, and we're all brothers and sisters, I think it can help us when we start to have difficult interaction, so that you're not so disappointed. You're not so personally offended, because a lot of it isn't that personal, right? And a lot of people aren't coming to the situations or scenarios with the same energy that you are coming with. And they're not as passionate about you being here as you are passionate about you being here. Also, one of the things we have to manage our expectations around is the structural functions and systems. So although when you come to Ghana, you fly into Accra, Accra has made a lot of changes just in the short amount of time that I've been here. I've been in Accra, in Ghana overall, for 6 years. And just in those 6 years of living here, not adding the years that I visited before I moved here, there are so many things that have changed in Accra, right? However, Accra is not all of Ghana. And even within Accra, there's a different system and structure that is not the same as the US. So when you're looking at the Instagram reels and you're watching the interviews of the celebrities who've come into Ghana, and you are listening to even people like myself who might be on YouTube who talk about our experience living in Ghana, just know that it's the highlight reel. It is the glamorized, sometimes glamorized version of our experiences in this space. And so when you're coming here to live on a more permanent basis, like what we're talking about when we say repatriation, just know that the systems are not the same. Things take a lot longer to get done here. There are language barriers. Even though we all speak English, there's still language barriers. There are cultural differences that are real life barriers to getting things done. And a lot of the times it won't make sense to you, right? Like, it won't make sense why something can't happen faster than what is happening in 2023. And the truth of the matter is, it's not going to happen any faster. The people here have a way of doing things. They are okay with the way that they do things. And you as an outside person have to, in order to not go crazy, in order to not be angry every day, in order to not isolate completely, which all of us who have repatriated, we've done all of those things at one point or another, right? But in order to not do those things and totally just be dissatisfied, you have to manage your own expectations, because you can't change the system here. You can't change the people here. A lot of us who are moving here don't have citizenship, can't vote. Like I can, but a lot of the people who are here now weren't a part of that process, and they don't have that option just yet. So the only thing you can control is yourself. So manage your own expectation about the system. Know that this is a different country. Know that it's not going to happen the way that it happens in the U.S. Even though when you look online and they talk about, this is Africa and this is Africa too, and they show you all the mansions and the this and the that. A mansion in Tresaco does not equate to a functioning governmental structure, right? Having a whole bunch of celebrities come and throw parties and concerts does not equate to a regulated, well-functioning taxing system where everybody can be held accountable. Like these are worlds apart. That's why I said in my last video, there's a difference between tourism and repatriation, visiting a place and living in a place. And when you're coming to live in a place, you're dealing with all of those things that the tourist isn't looking at, because they are not here for a long time. They're here for a short time, and they don't have to worry about, what is the structure of our police system, what happens, and why are our light bills consistently increasing, and the taxes increasing on everything, and the Momo taxes are increasing, and fees and all of that. They don't have to worry about that, because even when they're here touring, they're not using Momo. Right? They're not paying an electricity bill. The most they're paying for is an Airbnb and an Uber and food and drinks, and so we have to manage our expectations. In order to not go crazy, we have to manage our expectations. Ghana is not the US. It ain't gonna never be. These are two different places, two totally different groups of people, and one isn't better than the other, right? There's a reason you're leaving that space. So once we do that, I think we will be better off in our feelings about some of the things that displease us, because we're putting it into perspective, right? So we're understanding that I'm interfacing with this person, and just because I'm brown, that doesn't mean that they see me as the same, right? Because to be very honest, just kind of doubling back to that point, a lot of the people here haven't experienced racism and discrimination based on color, right? So racism based on color and discrimination based on color. So this whole concept of like unity because of color of skin doesn't really resonate, right? It doesn't hit them the same. So you managing your expectations about everybody seeing you as their brother and sister because you have the same skin tone, that'll help you realize that if something goes awry, it ain't that deep for a lot of the people that are doing the things to you, right? It's not that deep for them, and they're not going to see it that deep. When you recognize and manage your expectation around people not understanding your history, you'll understand why they see you as a foreigner and why they don't call you an African, and you won't be so offended by it, and you'll know how to maneuver in some of those spaces better. You'll know how to accept the fact that like them just wanting to roll out citizenship for everybody isn't something that they're like super jumping to do because they don't see you as Ghanaian, right? I'm hoping I'm making this make sense. Okay, make it make sense. And then also manage your expectations around how Western Ghana really is, because online Ghana looks like the West. In reality, it's not. And so we have to come to realization around those things. So I hope this video was helpful. These are some of the ugly truths when it comes to Ghana and you're repatriating. You have to manage your expectations. So if you want more of this content, you want to hear more from your girl Nzali, leave me a comment down below. Like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you know when I have new content posting. And until the next time, bye y'all.